skipper's done it.
Beautiful chapter it is for the Bombers.
Well, Scotty, it was a pretty wet, miserable day at the MCG. How do you think the Bombers handled the conditions?
Look, I think their effort was really good. Their pressure that they applied was good, close to 100 tackles. But what I found they did do was overuse the handball too much in those conditions. We saw Carlton kick the ball more, get more yardage out of their possessions, therefore had over 20 more inside 50s. The Bombers overused the handball in close, meant that with Carlton's great pressure, applied a lot of tackles, prevented entries that they really needed in those conditions to get a score on the board.
So even though it was very wet, did Essendon need to chance their arm a little earlier and maybe switch the play a bit more often?
I think they did. I thought too often they went long down the line, which made things very difficult for your forwards in those conditions, getting one-on-ones, defenders, predictability. So the first 2 weeks very good at coming off the line, getting width on the outside and really able to create some space for our runners. We weren't able to do that. The conditions did play a fair part in that, but I still would have liked to have seen more dare in their ball movement.
Post-game, John Worsfold referenced the connection between the mids and the forwards. How did you see that out there?
Look, I think it's a really fair comment. Having worked with his forwards over the summer, he knows exactly what he's after. From my point of view, just looking down on it, it looked like at different times, when you're not in the game, what can you be doing to involve yourself? Because it's always a tough day. For the forwards in those conditions. They're not expected to have the sort of influence they once would. But setups become critical, and I thought at different times they could have potentially changed it up and got their runners on the last line and kicked over the back into an open forward line. And also really the seventh defender at times, particularly Doherty late in the game, had too great an impact. So being aware of what's happening around you when it's not going your way is really important, and just get the structures right, and they really needed to round up Doherty and make him accountable also.
So looking ahead to this week, it's a pretty big challenge that confronts Essendon. Adelaide in Adelaide. What's the focus on the track this week ahead of this big challenge?
I think recovery will be the first point of reference for the boys, because they're conditions they don't often play in when it rained for the entire day. Looking ahead to Adelaide, I mean, their midfield often talked about as not having enormous depth, but they've been in fantastic form. Sloan at the weekend, Jacobs also, really important role that Leuenberger will play. I thought he was pretty good in his first game back yesterday, so he'll have a big game. Midfield getting more benefit or more use out of their clearances and their work, because they've been playing well collectively, get more entries and give the forward line a chance, because I think that's really, we need to isolate the Adelaide backs and get some one-on-ones. On the flip side, they'll need to defend very, very well and limit the entries that Adelaide get, because they do have a star-studded forward line that's performing well at the minute.
Scotty, really appreciate your analysis, mate, and we look forward to the Friday footy panel later this week.
Always a pleasure.